At what age are you first eligible to collect Social Security retirement benefits? Does anybody know? 62. As early as age 62, but no earlier. By the way, technically you have to be 62 in 1 month unless you're born on the 1st or the 2nd of the month. They make you survive the whole month. For example, I'm born May 22nd. I wasn't 62 for the whole month. So my first month of eligibility is June. They want to make sure I survive the month, so they don't pay me till July. For you folks, they're a little compulsive about things. All right. Now, do you get the full benefit at 62? Does anybody know how much it's reduced?
80%?
It's reduced 80%. You only get 20%?
Oh, no, 20%. It's reduced 20%.
It is for our parents. But
Oh.
Alan Greenspan changed that. If you were born in 1937 or earlier, it was a 20% reduction. But if you were a baby boomer born between 1943 and 1954, it's a 25% reduction if you collect at 62, and you don't get your full unreduced benefit until you're 66. Alan said you're just hitting your stride in your mid-60s. Just got a new job at 85, so he figures the rest of us can't too, I guess. For our kids who were born in 1960 or later, they take a permanent 30% reduction for collecting at 62. And their full unreduced age is 67. Did anybody notice there were some missing dates in there? Did you? Yeah. They had some funding problems, so those people don't get any. No, that's not true. No, it's prorated for each month in between. For you mathematicians, it's interpolated. You know what I'm talking about? So let's say you were born in 1955. Your unreduced benefit, if you collected at 62, you would get about a 26% reduction, not 25, and so forth and so on. All right. Now, I don't know if you knew this, but if you delay collecting your benefits until up to age 70, you get about a 40% higher benefit than if you collected at your full retirement age, be it 66 or 67, depending on when you were born. But let's say a baby boomer who was born from 43 to 54. If he or she decides to delay collecting from 66 to 70, the way Social Security looks at it, because you're likely to collect for fewer years, we're going to give you an added bonus for deferring the collecting until 70. And you might notice in your annual statement it's about 40% higher than the benefit you would have had, like say, at your full retirement age. By the way, I keep throwing out the term full retirement age, or your nickname FRA, F-R-A, full retirement age. That's for the people, you know, the folks born at 37 or earlier at 65. For those born from 43 to 54, the baby boomers, it's 66, the month of your 66th birthday. And for those born in 1960 or later, it's the month of your 67th birthday. So what I would like everybody to do right this minute is to go to their personal action plan and figure out the month of their full retirement age based on what I just said. Is everybody clear on what I just said? So if you were born from 43 to 54, it's the month of your 66th birthday. If somebody tells me their year of birth, I'll tell you what month it would be. Because if you were born in 1955, your full retirement age is 66 and 2 months. If you're born in 56, it's 66 and 4 months, and so forth and so on. Does everybody see that? It's very important to know that, as you'll see in a minute, because of a quirk in the law that Bill Clinton changed 12 years ago to our favor, to know the month of your full retirement age. It's closer than you think. All right. Anybody? By the way, there was a study recently by the Boston College Retirement Research Center that said the 3 most important things that the average person can do to assure a financially secure retirement, unless your name is Gates or Buffett, is to delay collecting Social Security as long as possible, to cash in the house, in other words, to use the equity in the house, not to give it to the little darlings as past generations might have, and to consider delaying retiring or working in retirement. Those are the three things. Notice it had little or nothing to do with investing. Investing will not rescue your retirement, but all those things will probably allow you to save more. All right, any questions? By the way, you might notice on the in your book, this kind of summarizes some of what I was talking about. You'll notice the left-hand column, it shows your year of birth. The center column is your age for full retirement benefits under Social Security. And this shows you as the employee, the percentage you could collect of your full benefit at age 62. But it also refers to a spouse, and this is in your book as well, a spouse who had nominal earnings or no earnings. This is the percentage that he or she could collect of your full higher benefit while the two of you are still living. And I'm going to go through a few examples of that, but is this clear so far? So these are all what they call living benefits. Now the question sometimes arises, and I think I probably gave away the answer a little bit here, from a financial planning perspective, what's the best time to collect your Social Security? Pardon me?
As late as possible, yes.
Well, let's see if it makes sense. Let's look at the numbers. I told the story already, Rosemary, didn't I?
Yeah.
Now we've got to look at the numbers. Let's say that I would get $1,000 a month at age 66. So let's say that's my full retirement age. I was born from 43 to 54. Now see who was paying attention. What would I collect at 62? 20?
80%.
25.
Oh, 25.
You're right, 25. Or you would get $750 a month, wouldn't you? However, you would have collected for 36 months early, wouldn't you? From 62 to 66. So let's multiply this out. Did I say 36? You would have collected 48 months. Or you would have collected $36,000 early. Now, a lot of people's eyes get big when they see that. But the question you must ask yourself from a financial planning perspective is how long would you have to have lived beyond 66, David, to justify waiting to get the higher amount? That's the question. And the way you answer that is you divide the amount of the reduction into the 36,000, and it comes out to 144 months or 12 years. So you must live until 78 to justify waiting. Now, I think that most people are hardwired in their 60s not to be able to imagine themselves at 78. But I'm here to tell you that women will whiz by 78 so fast they won't even see it. They won't even, and you could just go to the medical wards if you think I'm exaggerating. Right, David? In fact, a 65-year-old woman has an 80% chance of reaching 80. The typical 65-year-old woman has a life expectancy of 86, and that means half live longer, Linda. So for women, it's a slam dunk. If you want to maximize money from the program. If you don't, you got a rich uncle, or you're going to get a big inheritance, or, you know, that's another kettle of fish. But if you want to maximize benefits from the program, is that clear? Yes. John?
Is there any benefit to getting the money early to have it in hand and then invest it in your choice? Because for 4 years you're having nothing if you wait till 66. For 4 years you're collecting something and invest it in how you choose.
That's a great question. In fact, in the old days, when interest rates were really high, this group may not remember, but I remember when CDs were paying 16% for a while in 1979. Well, then the argument became a little bit more interesting. But now, when you're earning interest of less than 1%, and if you invest in things that are riskier, you could just as easily lose it during that short period of time, John. And in the real world, people don't invest the money they get early. One trip by the mall, that's it. I hate to put it that way. John, but people's eyes get big. They say, what are we waiting for? Christmas? So the reality is, even if you invested in a relatively risk-free investment, like in a government bond of some sort of short-term bond, it pushes out the break-even point a couple years more. A peanuts difference. Okay? Now, for guys, we should wait too, but the question is...
Can I just ask one more question
Oh,
before you do that?
sure.
At 66, does it go up to 1,000 or it stays
Ah,
at 750?
that's a good question. In other words, well, who cares if I collect at 62 as long as it pops up to 1,000 at 66, right? No! Permanent reduction.
Totally, forever.
Unless, as David says, you go back to work. In fact, let's stick with that for a second. Let's say that David decides to collect early at 62. And he collects for a year. But he's driving you crazy. You know, what do they say, retirement? Too much husband and not enough money. You know what I'm saying? So after a year you say either you go back to work or I do. So John now goes back to work. He turns the spigot off in Social Security, because you'll see why, because he won't be able to collect because there's what's called an earnings test anyway up to a certain age. And then he works all the way up to 66 and then decides to turn the spigot back on again. How much would his benefit be, and this goes back to David's question, how much would his benefit be reduced? Would it be a 25% reduction because he collected at 62? No, it would only be reduced for the months he actually collected. So in this case, he'd probably get about 94% of his full benefit because it's just 1/4 of the time period between 62 and 66. Is everybody clear on that? We'll have that on the final a couple of months. No. But I think you get the idea, Pam, do you not?
Yes, I do.
But not everybody likes the answer.
Well, I think it's all depends on your lifestyle.
Kind of. If you've got more money falling out of your pockets than you need in Social Security's cafe latte money, God bless you, you don't need it. But for many people, it's a big significant chunk of their income in retirement, and they want to maximize its utility. Clear? Did I answer the question on that, I hope? Okay. Let's, yes.
If you could just say that again, so the months that you work, they reduce.
Yeah, I'm going to explain how that works in a second, the earnings test. But in our example, that's what would happen. And that's what the magic of the month of the fry is. There's a magic thing that happens that month, and that's why it's so important to know it if you're thinking of working into your 60s and beyond. Okay. Yes, sir. Dan.
Thought I had is, doesn't your state of health and your life expectancy have way into it? I was wondering if there's some calculator somewhere where you could say, I've got high blood pressure, I weigh this, I've got this and that, and you know, and it'll say you're going to live another 4 years, and so you better take.
There are, but I'd rather go to my doctor to get a more precise measure. There's the limits of the calculators there.
Yeah.
So, we could always get hit by the bus, but you try to play the odds as best you can. Now, if your doctor tells you, hey, don't buy any green bananas, because we don't know how, I hate to put it that way, well then, you might want to collect early. But on the other hand, for the average person, these principles apply. See, that goes back to your question, John. What if I put the money and invested it? By the way, if you work as little as 10 years under Social Security, earning as little as about $4,500 a year, you're going to get a Social Security benefit. However, it says nothing about the size of the benefit. Ronald Reagan and Greenspan took away the minimum benefits in the 80s. Grandma used to not get any lower than $123 a month, $23. But now, we've seen them as low as $3 a month, whatever they calculate. So they had to save money. So anyway, so if you have as little as 10 years of work, you're getting the benefit. It just says nothing about the amount. How much will you get? Now I wish that Kathy, it wasn't Kathy, maybe it was, I forget, maybe it was Pam. How many think your benefit's based on your last 5 years of work?
Oh, that was my question. I wanted to know.
Right.
Because I don't know.
That's okay. Anybody, what do people think? This is just guessing. Last 5 years? Last 3 years? Last 5 out of the last 10? Don't know. You're in the right place. You voted twice. It's none of those.
Your highest 5?
No, none of those. It's based on your highest 35 years of earnings.
What does that mean?
I'll tell you what it means. You're in the right place.
35 years ago.
Yeah, I'll tell you what it means. Now, this group might be too young, but I remember back in the 60s when I was working, right around September, my paycheck would go up. Why? Because you only paid Social Security taxes on the first $4,800 of salary back then. And all of a sudden, I said, they finally appreciate me around here. I got my bump, and then I found out otherwise. So they raised that threshold over time. The next couple of years it was up to $7,800. Then it was $9,600. Then it was $15,000. Then it was $22,000. Then it was $40,000. Anybody know what it is this year? The salary above which you do not pay Social Security taxes.
It's over 100. 110,
$106,800. So Bill Gates gets to that about 3.3 seconds into the year. The chairman of Exxon gets into it the first day of the year. He's got all the Social Security taxes paid. For many of us, it takes a bit longer if we reach it at all. Now, by the way, if they just raised that cap, by the way, took that off, that would solve about 40% of all Social Security funding for the next 50 years.
Why do they cut them
Pardon me?
that? Why do they cut them that big?
You don't want to raise taxes. You can't raise taxes.
Or they raise the taxes.
Can't raise
for a
taxes.
percentage of going
You can't raise taxes. Okay, you might want to write your congressman. Anyway, now, the reason I say this is when they look at the 35 years, Pam, they only look at the 35 years of salary upon which you paid Social Security taxes. So once they figure that out, then they divide it by months. So now they've got your 35 years times 12 of earnings of Social Security taxes, salary. Then what they do is they put an inflation factor on all past years. You might think you're making big salaries now, but that $4,800 in 1964 is worth $41,000 in today's dollars. So they put an inflation factor on every past year. Now, I don't want to get too complicated here, but I get you. This is why you can't do it on the matchbook cover at the diner. So now you got your average indexed monthly earnings, indexed for inflation for 35 years. That's step one. You got 18 more. It's not that bad, though, sorry. But once you get that, then what they do is they give great weight to your low earnings, less weight to your middle earnings up to the threshold, and little or no weight to the high earnings. For example, I've got to tell stories here. Let's say that I'm a custodian. I make $31,000 a year and have for 35 years. In fact, I made $1,400 in 1964. And I retire this year at my full retirement age. Under Social Security, how much would I get? I would get about half my salary, $1,440 a month. Let's say I'm a nurse, senior nurse. I make $90,000 a year and have, for 35 years, and I've reached my full retirement age. Remember, I worked for 35 years. Reached my full retirement age this year. How much would I get? I'd probably get about $2,000 a month, maybe a little bit more, from Social Security. Let's say I'm the president of Yale. I'm from New Haven, down near my neck of the woods. He makes $750,000 a year, not counting housing allowance. It has
Or car allowance.
Never mind that. It's except the 35. What benefit does he get under Social Security at his full retirement age? He gets $2,446 a month. Okay? That's how it works. Now, some consider that communism. Others, a helping hand for the less fortunate. But that's how it works. Is that clear? By the way, Social Security's website at the end of this chapter is excellent. It's been dramatically improved recently. And you can go on there and you can get estimates of your benefit. If you're close to retirement, they can be really, in your 60s or approaching, they can get really accurate. And if you're younger, you can do all, or not so young, you can do what-if scenarios. What if I went over to Walmart at half the pay and a quarter of the stress? What would that do to me? Now, if you had 33 years here or somewhere, it wouldn't affect it too much. In your traditional pension plan, the unfrozen pension plan, not too many of us have that.